Guys,
did Alyssa go missing?
I went to pee and misjudged. I went to pee and I misjudged my time. Okay, Taylor, I didn't mean to leave you hanging.
That's okay. You're here now.
Also, that reminds me of how, was it last week where we were like just waiting to, no, this is like 2 weeks ago, where we were just waiting to start for a while?
Yes, that was a bit whack.
That was crazy. Anyway, hello, welcome to Chewed Gum, friends. How are we? How are we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Just dandy. You know, a little tired. We were earlier today, 10 minutes ago, we were talking about how sometimes it's a struggle of like, am I tired or am I depressed? That's the game that we play. So, you know, we're figuring it out. The world is a little spooky scary right now, and that's okay. But
yeah, just a little.
Just a little. Today is July 29th. And oh my God, ew, I had a blister from a pair of shoes that I wore yesterday, and I was like, why is my toe wet? It burst. I'm having a really upsetting
what burst?
A blister that I had on the side of my toe.
Damn.
Ew, that's fucking... I'm having a really disturbing first 3 minutes of this call. I'm so sorry. Anyway, today is July 29th. And this is Chewed Gum. This is a show where we talk about purity culture, deconstructing, sex education, relationships, all those kinds of things. If you want to call and talk to us about any of those or adjacent topics, you can call 720-619-2288 or use the web link that is in the description. And as a reminder, super chats of $5 or more will be read at the end of the show. And that's all I got. I cannot believe all of the things that just happened in the first 3 minutes. That was fucking gnarly.
Am I the one lagging?
Oh, I don't know. You seem fine. I might be delayed.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I just want to make sure I'm not doing something wrong. Okay, cool.
Neither of you are lagging.
Okay, good. It's just
okay, cool.
My computer then.
Okay. All right. Well, for anyone who is who's been wanting to call in, we have some lines open. So give us a call. The phone number's on the screen. It's also in the description. And we're really nice and really smart. So talk to us. We have so much fun. We do have a caller who is waiting, so we can call him in. But before we do, Taylor, hair's looking great again today. The hair, whatever we're doing.
Thank you. Thanks for noticing.
I love it.
Thank you.
I'm loving it.
I appreciate it.
I love it, and I cut my hair because it was just like getting scraggly and gross, and then I cut it again because I was like, it felt like the bob was not bobbing, and what I kept seeing is if the bob is not bobbing, cut it shorter. So I did, and I deeply regret that because I immediately was like, and we've achieved berries and cream. I'm a little lad who loves berries and cream, and I can't take it.
No.
And so now it's grown a little bit.
I do not think it looks like that. I think it looks really good. And I need to cut my hair shorter because when it gets to a certain length, I feel like I look like either really religious or horse girl, if you know what I'm saying. So I need to like do some cutting because it's getting to that point. Somebody asked me one time at my old job when my hair was really long if I was religious, and I was like, oh my God. Time to schedule an appointment, I guess.
Oh, that's bad. That's really funny.
So I think berries and cream is better than that, but I also don't think you look like berries and cream, so it's very cute.
Thank you so much. We're fighting through it until I like it again. And I did really like it. So I think I just need to like let it grow another inch or something, and and we'll sort it out. And also my hair is the least interesting thing about me, I have so much crazier shit that comes out of my mouth.
Yeah, I feel you.
So it's fine. I feel you. All right, so we have a gentleman named Anthony on hold. So let's pull him in. Are you ready to take calls?
Yep.
Are you feeling warm and ready? Okay, stunning.
I'm feeling warm and fuzzy.
Warm and fuzzy. Okay, great. We're gonna pull in Anthony. He's a theist. Calling from Virginia. Hello, Anthony.
Hey, how are y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm doing fine. So I just wanted to call in and just have a general conversation about the idea. I believe that Christianity and God are good things and they should be believed. And I kind of wanted to lead off with just asking you two in particular, like, I know there's probably a lot of things that you don't agree with both of them, but is there anything in particular that you really is holding you back? If we just want to start with like Christianity, and then maybe go to God, or however you wanted to answer that question.
Is the question like why we're not Christians? I think my thing was lagging, so I was trying to hear what you said. Oh.
Yeah. So what are the main reasons? I mean, obviously, if you don't believe in God, you're not going to believe in Christianity. But I mean, aside from that, like, is there anything wrong with the morality system taught by Jesus, or things you see Christians doing, or anything like that? Like, what is really holding you back?
I think when you say like the morality taught by Christianity, that's such a broad thing because so many people interpret things so many different ways. But besides the fact that I'm just not convinced God is real, I'm seeing now more than ever, at least in the United States, the Christian morality destroy a lot of people's lives and hurt a lot of people. So that's definitely, even like socially, that's not something I would want to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. And what are Christians doing to destroy people's lives?
Well, they take away reproductive rights, which I think is pretty harmful. They're also pretty harsh and unfair to minorities. I must always. There's this also weird thing going on where people keep talking about the sin of empathy now because they don't like it when people are too empathetic and care about people other than themselves and their group of people. And that's kind of shown in ways like Trump taking away all DEI, but then having a page on the White House website where he talks about protecting Christians. That's super weird to me because it kind of seems like they're not interested in protecting anybody else, only their in group. And on top of that, they're forcing their religion on the public by, adhering to, they want our laws and government to be based off of their morality. On top of that, they're trying to force Ten Commandments and Bibles in public schools, which I think is really harmful for a lot of different reasons, if we want to say that we're a free country.
Okay, well, everyone's trying to enforce their morality on everyone else. That's what politics is you have a moral system and you think it's best for society, so you vote for people who will put it in place. So that's not something that only Christians do. That's, Muslims, secularists, all kinds of people. So
I should
not something
say
that only
there's one
Christians
big
do.
Yeah, but there's one big difference. So like if I vote for things like if I had voted for gay marriage or reproductive rights, I'm not forcing you to live that way. I'm not forcing you to get an abortion. I'm not forcing you to be gay. My thing is about choice, and what I'm voting for isn't restricting any of your choices. The things that Christians do take away people's freedoms and rights. That's the giant difference.
Well, you'd have to define rights. I disagree. I think Christian only in the Christian worldview. In secularism, there's no fundamental backgrounding or basis for human rights. We're all just kind of overgrown apes running around, and apes don't really have.
I disagree with that. Because I think, like, do you really need a Bible to tell you that you shouldn't kill each other? I think that we've established that without the Bible, and also people murder in the name of the Bible all the time. So, like,
what if there's another guy going after my girlfriend? I can just get rid of him. And I don't have a girlfriend, but hypothetically, like, why is it wrong to, that's what the apes do when another ape is threatening the offspring.
We don't behave like apes in any.
Wait, we are apes.
No, we're not.
Apes with big brains.
Anthony,
okay.
We're not apes. We're human beings, and we are aware of the wrong choice because we can understand. We have the ability to have a critical thought. We're able to follow the consequences of our actions. So we know that if a guy goes after your girlfriend, it is not appropriate to kill them. And we know that because it's not, you're taking away someone else's right to live because of choices that were made. People don't do that. People who are secular don't do that. People who are Muslim don't do that. And it's just people don't do that because we understand the sanctity of life in that way. And we understand, actually, it's not even the sanctity of life. What we understand is the freedom of choice without the consequence of death, which is a uniquely Catholic thing, if you ask me. Actually, no, it's not. It's not uniquely Catholic, but it is something that is pretty often used in the Catholic Church. But I don't think that I think it's a really cheap shot to say that the only way that we get our moral compass is through the Bible. And if the only way that we got our moral compass was through the Bible, I think that we would be in trouble because there's a lot of cherry picking that goes on. I think even when and obviously, like, there's a difference between the religion and the people who follow it. So right now we can see in our political landscape that for people who are like super, super into MAGA and they think that they are also Christians, they're not supposed to worship anyone who is not God or Jesus. And yet it would appear that they are worshiping Donald Trump and they're idolizing Donald Trump. And so I'm not feeling too good about that. But even beyond that, the reason that I don't believe is because I don't think any of it's true. Like, I don't think miracles exist. I think that the institutions that surround the religions are inundated with money and people who are interested in power, and have, even if there were good lessons to take from the Bible, I don't trust the institutions that run them either. And I mean, I just don't believe that God is real.
Well, here's the thing. In Christianity, it's a tenet that, you know, we live in a fallen world. So any human institution is going to have some level of corruption. But in Christianity, we recognize there's a solution to that, which is, you know, repentance and turning to you know, God's system.
So God created.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, God's system of Christianity is extremely flawed, and we see that every day. So, like, so why should we go by the Christian flawed system?
It sounds to me like y'all are like, it's like Alyssa said earlier. It's like, well, you can't look at the actions of the people. You have to look at what the religion actually teaches. But I think that the religion, I think that Christians are pretty much getting it right. Like, I think
there is no religion without people. People are the religion. There is no religion without people.
I understand that.
Is a religion a book?
A lot of times, well, put it this way. Let me give you an example. You know, Jesus taught, you know, very clearly not to abuse children. He said that if you abuse a child, it's better that you were never born at all because of the punishment you will receive. But we obviously see Christian leaders in Catholicism and all denominations. We see these things happen. So a lot of skeptics like to point out, oh, look at these Christians. They're, you know, look at how hypocritical they are. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But the point is, Jesus taught us not to do that. So if people actually followed what Jesus taught, then the problem would be solved.
What's the benefit when we have people that are priests who are the most devout and know the Bible backwards and forwards and have taken an oath, and they are still abusing children? What is the value of this belief system? Because the people who are supposed to be the most devout to it are violating it. So, like, what is the purpose of this belief system when there are people who are not religious and would never lay a hand on a child? So I don't think it's working. And I want to just say about the fallen world thing, before I forget. The thing that I think is so interesting about that is, well, actually, I'll ask you, Anthony, do you believe that God has a plan? Like, when things happen in your life and they feel sort of they're like a disadvantage to you, do you feel, well, I can put my faith in God's hands because I know that he has a plan?
Yeah, I try not to say, like, I definitely know that God has this or that plan for me, just because I think something happened that either benefits, I don't like, oh, God definitely did this, but it's possible that God arranged that. That's kind of how I look at it.
So if this is a person who's or a being that is positioned as being the most powerful, and the most, I mean, I guess the most powerful is really the best way to describe. Why would he create a world that had the option of falling? Why did he create a world and human beings? And I know the answer you're going to give me is free will. But why give human beings free will? Give them the option to suffer. Give them the option to suffer so that they have to grovel for forgiveness back. Why wouldn't you make a world with no suffering, without that option? Instead, you made the option. Why? To punish us?
Well,
like, why?
You're right. No, you're right. So the answer to all of that is free will. So God gave us free will. So the alternative to free will is to not have free will. So God had a choice: either create us with free will, which is what I think is what happened, or just completely control us. So I think in either way, the skeptic is going to be like, well, either God's a control freak, or, you know, God created a system that logically entails and necessitates suffering. So, you know, take your pick. Do you want to be a robot, or do you want to have free will and have the option of making a choice one or the other?
I would gladly be a robot. I would gladly have less free will if it meant that there would be no suffering on this earth. Like, if you told
Yeah.
me that my life's plan was predetermined and there wasn't really that, and there's like, even without the religious aspect, there is a conversation that I see happen about how like no one really has free will. So, and there's an illusion of free will even outside of religion. But why would I not take the option to have things not be full of suffering? So like even if like if you are God, why does childbirth hurt as much as it does? It's something that human beings have to do to continue to procreate. And he has the ability to do all things, heal all things. Why does childbirth hurt so much? Why are there children dying of starvation in Gaza? Why? Like, why? What is the purpose
Well,
for the suffering?
the purpose of the
Anthony, does
suffering,
heaven have free will?
it does have free will. Yeah, it does.
So why isn't there
But
suffering?
there isn't suffering in heaven. Well, my answer might be different from what other Christians would answer, but I'll just give my answer. I think that when you look at the teachings of Jesus, the reason there's no suffering in heaven, at least from behavioral actions, is because God only lets in the people who are righteous, and righteousness is not acting in an evil way. So the people who get into heaven are the ones who actually attain to righteousness.
Yeah, but there's still sinners who got into heaven. They're not perfect, so they would still have free will, and that would mean there would still be suffering, but there's not.
Well, yeah,
Like, they aren't
so
perfect people.
I understand in evangelical Christianity, which is your background, there's this idea of original sin and total depravity, and the fall corrupted all of us. But there's actually, if you look into the earliest phases of Christianity, this wasn't always the view. That was actually developed by a church father named Augustine. Before that, there was a guy named Pelagius who held that humans did have free will and the capacity for inherent goodness. So that kind of got wiped out by kind of early in the church. It's kind of forgotten history, but it's also in the woods. But yeah, the idea that humans do have inherent goodness is something that was believed for a long time in Christianity, and I would argue still is something that people should believe. So it's kind of my version of it.
So they turn perfect when they enter heaven, and they still have
No,
free
they
will.
don't. No, the whole point is even on this earth is actually the idea of sinless perfectionism has a long history. I think going all the way back. So my opinion is that there's in Matthew 5:20, Jesus says, "Unless your righteousness surpasses the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven." So you actually, in my opinion, do have to become righteous to get into heaven. You can't just, say the blood of Christ pays for it and I'm in.
What does it mean to be righteous? Because I always think about how if you go to confession and you become very religious later in your life, you could be granted forgiveness and have all of your sins wiped away, and then you get to go to heaven. So like, could I presumably be a murderer throughout my whole life, not abide by the 10 commandments, and then in my 80s decide that I'm going to get baptized again, be born again, go to confession every day, and be very devout for the last 10 years of my life if I'm lucky, and then get into heaven?
Well, yeah, so you actually have to repent of your sins. Again, in evangelicalism, it's sola fide, it's faith alone. But, you realize in Catholicism
but
and
if I do
Orthodox...
all of those things, if I'm a horrible person for my entire life, aside from the last 10 years of it, if I repent, then I get to go to heaven?
Yeah, God said he'll wipe away our sins, and though they be red as scarlet, if you turn from evil and do good, then your sins will be forgiven.
So then, Anthony, I have a question about how you started this whole conversation talking about how one of the reasons why religion is important is because it gives us a moral compass. It does not give us a moral compass. It gives us morality at the hands of a consequence. The consequence is if you don't abide by my rules, you will not get into heaven, which means the morality is given to you with a prize of this eternal life. So that does not sound righteous to me. That sounds selfish. And I see this over and over again with people who were not devout throughout their lives. I mean, hell, I see this with my parents, honestly. My dad, more specifically. Sorry, I don't mean to, like, he doesn't deserve a stray right now. But, like, this happens a lot where people get to their 50s, their 60s, and then all of a sudden they're so devout. And now they're in church all the time. And to me, it's selfish. You know that you are getting to the second half of your life and you want to make it to heaven. So all of the shit stuff that you did in the beginning of your life doesn't matter. So then how is this a moral compass? This is not a moral compass. It's morality.
Like you were saying
it's morality so that you gain something from it, not morality for the sake of having the world be a better place.
Well, in God's system, we're rewarded for doing the right thing, and we can argue about how exactly to define right thing. But yeah, like you were saying earlier, when we're young, we're typically not thinking about things clearly. We're chasing things that aren't as important. But when you get older, we people start thinking about things. They start thinking about what's important, and they realize, oh, I've made some mistakes. It's time for me to
so then does
right
this
my ship.
System work? Because it doesn't sound like it works. This doesn't sound like it works
for your
dad
at
all.
It sounds like it worked for your dad. It sounds like your dad's on the right path.
I don't think so. He ruined the relationships with all of his closest family members because of the behavior that he had up until this point. So
right,
I don't think it worked for him.
Before he was a Christian, he was doing all these things that caused problems.
He was a Christian this whole time.
He wasn't he wasn't actually following the teachings. So the point is, you have to follow.
Doesn't matter.
There's a lot of Christians.
No, in your words, you just said if he repents later and then he decides to be a Christian, all of that other stuff doesn't matter because at the end of the day, he's still going to heaven. So he's still abiding by Sky Daddy's rules. He still gets to go.
Well, the point is, he wasn't following Sky Daddy's rules. And that was causing problems, but he recognized that he was living in error, and he changed his ways, and God's going to reward him.
But so what my point is, I don't believe that when people do that, when they get to the second half of their life and they decide all of a sudden they're going to be really devout, they're going to repent, and then they're going to be able to get into heaven that way. I don't believe it's because they recognize the error of their ways. I believe that it is because they want to get into heaven, which means this is not a system that works. A system that works is one that teaches you that the reason that we are kind to others is so that you can create strong connections, that you can build community with each other, that you can have mutual aid with one another. So why? I don't understand. And then I also really at the end of the day, what it boils down to for me, Anthony, is I don't believe literally any of this. I don't believe any of it is true. I don't believe anything in the Bible happened. I don't believe there is heaven. I don't believe there's a God. And where a lot of the time I think, you know what, ultimately people believe what they want to believe. It's not my business, whatever. But since we're talking about family and personal things that are happening right now, my grandmother is 10 feet away from me, devout Christian her whole life. And now she's very sick. She's at the end of her life. And circle of life, this is how it goes. She's very sick. She's seeing sort of the end of the tunnel. And she got very sick out of nowhere. So it's like not a great situation for her. But, whatever. 88 years old, we move. She had a lot of great years behind her. However, one of the things that she said to me when she was in the hospital a few weeks ago, she said, I prayed and look where it got me. And it made me so fucking mad because she's right. She prayed and she prayed her whole life. She always cared about people and put them ahead of herself. She followed those 10 commandments better than anyone I know. And now she's at the end of her life and she is going to suffer every day of it until it's over. So what the fuck was the point of her praying? What was the point?
Well, I wanted to give respect to your grandma, but following God's commands doesn't give us eternal life. We're all going to die. So I hate to just say it like that.
No, I know. Of course, and that's the reality of the situation. But what is the point? There are no miracles. I've yet to ever see a miracle. seen tragedy over and over in my personal life. We see it over and over and over in what goes on in the world all over. So this God who has the ability to heal all things, he is the most powerful presence that's ever existed. And his world is a fucking mess. And then he just wipes his hands like this and he goes, well, that's what happens when you have free will. I don't buy it. That's bullshit. And it would be, we've said this before on, like, many people have said this on the line before, but if you were to prove to me that God exists, you would have a much harder time proving to me that he's a good person. Because this is something I can't accept. Children who have not had a sin in their life getting cancer. Like, what are we doing? And then God says, well, free will, it's just the way that it is. Like I don't understand.
Well, you got to understand there's different sources of suffering. So there's suffering from natural causes, with, like, natural disasters.
Why would there be suffering?
Which God
why
created.
would there be suffering from? Yes, God creates these things.
Well,
why would there be suffering from natural causes?
Well, here's the thing. I have yet to hear a skeptic prove to me that there's no inherent benefit to suffering. Okay, you may.
There's a ton of unnecessary suffering that is. Yeah, we can prove that's unnecessary.
Unnecessary according to whom? I mean,
why would we need to? So why would we need?
Why is it necessary for somebody who, like, they're dying and they, for months on end, they just suffer every single day and then they die? What did that do for that person?
That's because that's what happens when you get old. I mean, very rarely do people just lie down and they're just in the middle of the night and they're just.
It doesn't matter. That's
what's the benefit?
Point. It doesn't matter.
Because there's a reality we live in. Okay, the reality is when our bodies
He created the reality. He created the reality. He created our bodies. He created our bodies.
Just because here's
Allegedly.
the thing. This is what happens. You have to understand. Humans have no idea what it takes to create a universe and what makes one universe better than another. Okay, God has decided that a universe with suffering is better than a universe without suffering. We don't know exactly why, especially in all cases. You're saying he can't. You're saying God can't. You're saying God could have made a universe without suffering. Well, you have to.
Yes,
you have to prove that.
He? Yeah, you're telling me when a child. Anthony, when a child is diagnosed with cancer, you honestly would go up to their parents and say, well, there is a positive side to suffering and we don't know what it is, but God said that suffering is good for some reason. And so we just have to have faith in that. Are you fucking kidding?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's a difficult pill to swallow. But yeah, I mean, sometimes people make their biggest changes for the better when they're in these conditions. They have to think about what's important. How many times have you heard about someone who got cancer?
Okay.
Well, hold on. Let me finish.
Okay.
How many times have you heard about someone who got cancer and they're like, all of a sudden, all the unimportant things in my life just went away, and I started focusing on my family. I started focusing on my relationships, and I realized how much I love them. And these are things that happen when people get sick, and that's the unnecessary soul healing.
What about the unnecessary suffering that doesn't do anything good?
Well, that doesn't. You haven't proven that there's such a thing as unnecessary suffering. It looks.
Anthony, I just did with the older people, and all you had to say was they're old, as if that dismisses the whole thing. What about a baby who was born and they're only alive for like 2 weeks, but they're in immense suffering for those 2 weeks, and then the baby dies? What benefit was that? How did that benefit?
Okay, just because. All right, you have to understand. Just because I can't think of a benefit doesn't mean there is one. Okay, so there's
Anthony,
that.
You called in, so the burden.
Shouldn't make that argument then.
Yeah, the burden of proof will be on you because you made the claim.
It's not like children dying is in itself beneficial. What I'm trying to say is there are reasons for it. Okay, I mean, God can't reach His hand down out of heaven every single time something bad in this world is going to. It's like those.
Why can He? Why not?
Well,
Is he not the most
let me
powerful
give an
being
example.
that
You,
exists?
you remember that flood in Texas a couple weeks ago that got unfortunately drowned a bunch of little Christian girls in the camp?
Yes.
You remember?
And
Okay,
other people, but yes.
Well, okay, so we live in a world where there's natural laws, there's physics, there's thermodynamics. That's what drives the storm systems. Every once in a while, unfortunately, people are gonna be in the wrong place at the wrong time. God can't come down out of heaven and stop every storm cloud.
Why can't?
Why are you putting so many limitations on him?
Right, and
because here's
also,
the thing.
why couldn't he come up with a better solution? He couldn't have somehow divine Anthony, we hear these stories all the time, divine intervention, and some for some reason I just got a weird feeling to pick up my kid from camp, and I don't know why. Like that type of shit. And it doesn't happen across the board, but when it does happen, then that person says divine intervention. How could I have known? It's a miracle. But then when these kids get drowned, we go, oh, that's just a natural disaster. What about the kids in Gaza? What about them?
Anthony, what about the fact that God created the natural disaster? Like, besides, some global warming, natural disasters happen without us anyway, but God is in control of, there being natural disasters. We didn't create that entirely by ourselves. So, he added that.
The thing.
He added that as another form of suffering for why?
He didn't. God didn't add anything. So, like I said, people say God can do anything.
Who did that?
Actually,
who created natural disasters?
Well, he didn't create natural disasters necessarily. What God did was create the laws of physics. Okay, the laws of physics are that there's water, it evaporates up in the sky and then it falls down.
Which he knew would create natural disasters. If he can do anything, he can create a world where there aren't natural disasters, but he chose to create natural disasters. He chose to make the sun give us cancer. He chose to put animals on this earth that suffer for no reason, because apparently a lot of Christians don't think they have souls. So what is the reason? It seems like it's just some added pain he wants to give us.
This is what happens when you lose faith. You start thinking you know how to make the universe better than God.
You start asking questions? You start asking
Anthony,
questions?
No,
you start thinking yourself, you know what, I could do this better than God. But you don't.
Yeah, you start thinking. That's the thing, is you start thinking.
Anthony, you start thinking and you start thinking, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Why would God... I forgot about the sun and cancer. Why would God create a sun that can give us cancer?
Well, yeah, if you sit out in the sun all day, you're going to get cancer. But that's why God gave us, reason and brains to realize. Like, you can't. If there's a pit of fire, you can't jump into it. See, this is the thing. Atheists.
The sun is not a pit of.
Well, hold on.
The sun is not a pit of fire. It's something that you. It's something that you are around all the time.
What I'm saying is, there's dangerous. I hear this all the time. Atheists say 99.9% of the universe is uninhabitable. Yeah, if you go there, if you're dumb enough to go there. That's why God gave us a brain, even on Earth. If you do something stupid, then is God supposed to...
What about the people in Gaza right now? What about the Palestinian people in Gaza who are living in a place that is arguably inhabitable, children that are starving, places that are being bombed regularly, and is that just geographical bad luck for them? What's the deal over there?
Well, that comes down to human action. That goes back to free will. So...
and there's no way that God can intervene. God can't intervene.
It's not that there's no way. It's not that there's no way.
Almighty, all-powerful. He won't intervene. We are watching a genocide in real time, and he will not intervene. Not only will he not intervene with the people who are actually doing the genocide, he will not intervene with all of the people who are aiding it.
So are you saying let me ask you this, every single time someone does something bad on this earth, God should intervene? So what's the point of having free will?
I don't know. You tell me.
I don't.
You're telling me you have an all-powerful being.
You're the one who's advocating that free will is so important.
Here's the thing.
I think
it is important.
Like Alyssa said, I think what Alyssa said, if people are going to have quote unquote free will and then they die and they go to hell and burn for all of eternity, I'd rather be a robot. I'd rather everybody be a robot. Why are we pretending like free will for a short amount of time is worth eternal suffering? It's never been worth it. I don't see how you would see that's worth it. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
So you want bodily autonomy, but you don't want mind autonomy.
No, I just said I would prefer
Anthony,
to be a robot over burning in hell for all of eternity. I just said
That's
that.
what I'm saying.
Yes. Do not turn this into, Anthony, I swear to God, if you turn this into a bodily autonomy thing about abortion, I will lose my fucking shit, because you know that that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about general free will as opposed to eternal suffering at the hands of God creating those situations. That is what we are talking about. If you stray from that, I swear to fucking God, and you start going towards bodily autonomy in regards to abortion, I will lose my fucking mind.
Well, hold on. I won't go there, but Taylor did say she would rather be a robot. Well,
I said
then
it too.
you lost your autonomy. You lost your bodily autonomy at that point. So,
but
yeah, but
what do you want?
Making me decide. You're making me decide. You're making me decide between bodily autonomy and burning in hell for all of eternity. Do you hear yourself? Like, it's not just like, oh, I'd rather be a robot than have free will. It's no, I'd rather be a robot than burn for all of eternity, which is extremely, like, rational. It makes a lot of sense why someone would rather be a robot than suffer for all of eternity, because I cannot think of anything that would be worse than that.
If you don't want to go to hell, follow Jesus. There you go. Problem solved. You got free will and you got heaven.
That doesn't.
Good news. I don't think any of it's real. And I don't think any of it's real, and I don't think that you've proven that any part of it is real. Like, at no point, I think, did you really even try to prove that any of it was real, but I also don't believe that any of it has a benefit. Like, if anything, you've just shown me that being a part of a religion completely eliminates your critical thought. Like, I think if God is real, he's still a fucking asshole, because he created a world where he basically created all of his little Sims, and he was like, and there's traps everywhere that I created, and I created you as flawed systems, so you're susceptible to said traps, and unless you kiss my feet every single day, and apologize and apologize and apologize for the situation I put you in, then you're gonna burn in hell forever. Does this sound like a loving God to you? Because it sounds like an egomaniac to me.
Well, yeah, God loved us enough to trust us with free will.
God loved us enough to trust us with free will and a million traps
and then
along the way.
And then punish us for using the free will. It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, if y'all like to create a universe that you think is better than what God has created, I'd like to see it. But see, this is what y'all do. You don't understand why the system.
I think I could create a world that is better than the one that God created, which proves to me yet again that I don't think he's real, because I don't think he's that smart. If he is real, he's not his job.
Anthony, if I was a god, I wouldn't create any people. What is the point of creating people? If I was a god, would have everything I need on my own and be everything I ever need to be. I wouldn't need to create anybody. Why would I create a bunch of little minions for myself? I wouldn't create people, period.
To have loving relationships. So
how is that a loving relationship to say, how is that loving to say, hey, I'm going to create these little minions, and if they don't bow down to me, I'm going to burn them forever? How is that love? How is that love in any sense of the word? That doesn't make any sense.
That's certainly very simplistic. So yeah,
but
like it's like
that is the
y'all don't understand. This is how human society operates. Like when people have children, they aren't like, oh, you can just do whatever you want and, you get to stay in the house. No, it's like there are rules. We have to follow, like God wants, you want to love your kids,
if you had a child, would you burn them? Would you burn them for eternity? If you had a child, would you burn them forever? Would you do that? Would that be a loving,
if they didn't
parental thing to do?
if they didn't
I'd have to.
if they didn't follow your
not
rules,
gonna-
but also if they didn't worship you, if they didn't worship you every single week, if
Well-
they didn't give a percentage of their income to you every single week, you would burn your children?
Well, it
Because that's
I'm
quite
not
literally
saying
what God does.
I'm not going to say I'm going to burn my children, but God does say that everyone will be justly recompensed for what they do. So, would I justly recompense my kid for bad behavior? Yes, I would. I would mete out the punishment that child deserves, and hopefully that would correct the child's behavior.
Do you think
If you found out,
do you think any finite sin, quote unquote, deserves like infinite punishment? In what world is that just? Like, it isn't just by definition to give a finite crime.
Well,
Like,
again, I
eternal
think, Taylor,
punishment.
you're going. I understand that's the evangelical Protestant viewpoint on things, but in Catholicism they have purgatory and things like that. There's mortal sin and venial sin.
how
so
do you know that your
there's
version,
different-
Anthony? How do you know that your version is right? There's 40,000 denominations of Christianity. How do you know that your version is right and that's the one that's going to get you a ticket to heaven?
I don't know that my view is right. What I'm saying is that there's different views, and the whole idea that one little sin and you're we're born wicked sinners. That's a specific viewpoint that I understand is very popular in America, but it's not even the most popular view historically within Christianity. There were ways of looking at things where we cooperate with God, and
So
that there's different levels of sin that lead to
So,
different levels
Anthony,
of punishment.
do you believe that God is a perfect being?
Yes, I do.
So why did he create a religion that is so confusing, that is so unclear? We need 40,000 versions of it. Literally, that's not an exaggeration. 40,000, over 40,000 actually, denominations of it, where people cherry pick the parts of it that they would like to believe. Why? Why would he create a book that is open to interpretation to that degree?
Well, I'll start by saying, when a math teacher gives a math test, not everyone gets the right answer. Is that the math teacher's fault? Not necessarily. So God has told us, revealed to us what we're supposed to do. If people don't like parts of it and cherry pick it, that's not God's fault. Again, that's the result of living in a fallen world where people, don't like what God has told us to do in many cases.
Anthony, have you ever eaten shrimp before?
Yes.
Okay, so in the Bible, it is against God's laws and rules to eat shrimp.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the Bible. So, and you do that.
You'll get punished.
So
I don't think. I mean,
do you specifically apologize for eating shrimp when you go to church every Sunday?
I mean, maybe I should. I don't know. Like, I think. Well, here's the thing. Even Jesus said that there's weightier laws than others. I can't remember the exact verse, but when he was talking about the Pharisees, he said, "But no, this is." So people, even in the Ten Commandments, there's different levels. So like, if I look over at my neighbor's car and it's a nice car and I say, I like that car, that's technically envy. That's one of the Ten Commandments. But that is going over and eliminating my neighbor and stealing it? No, it's not. So
he created a system where we fail every single moment of every single day?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, people will fail, but that's the point of repentance. You look at what God has said, you take it and then you try to get better, and then God judges you.
He created beings that will repeatedly need to apologize over and over and over and over again. Like, he literally created little worship machines because his ego is so fucking big. So he created imperfect and then gave them free will. And then he created traps everywhere so that people would have to just lick his ass for the rest of eternity. Also, lick his ass for the rest of eternity to get into an alleged heaven that we have no proof exists. He will not give us proof that it exists. He won't even give us proof that he exists. and we're all just supposed to like believe him. This is an abusive relationship. You understand that if anyone else explained this relationship to you as a real life person, you'd be like, ooh, that's abuse. But we don't do that because this has been an institution for thousands of years. And people earn billions of dollars.
I think God, well, you know, the flat earthers think there's no reason to believe the earth is a globe. So
yeah, but
you can say that there's no evidence.
They are literally wrong. We have proof for that. They are wrong.
Right. But if you ask them, there's no evidence.
Yes, but they're wrong.
That's your assertion.
That's not, it doesn't, no, it's not, it has nothing to do with an assertion. If I tell you that I believe within my heart of hearts that 2 + 2 is 6, you're going to say, well, that's what she believes. That's not true. If I have 2 apples and then I have another 2 apples, I have 4 apples. I simply do not have 6 apples. No matter how many times I tell you that that's what I believe, it's wrong. That's the same thing with the flat earthers. Doesn't matter what the fuck they believe, they are wrong. In this scenario, you are the flat earther.
Well, I'm not a flat earther. I think that
you are believing things despite the proof.
I think atheists are equivalent to flat earthers at this point. I think there's so much evidence for God.
What proof are we ignoring? What like solid proof are we ignoring if we're the flat earthers? I am excited to hear.
Well, the thing is, because of your attachments, you refuse to see the evidence for what it is. That's what atheists do.
I'm asking for proof.
I hate to say
I'm asking for proof.
Surely the most powerful being on this earth could provide some sort of irrefutable proof that they exist.
What y'all want?
The alternative is he says, listen, I created you and you're going to have all these temptations for the rest of your life. And guess what? If you fall to them, you have to apologize and lick my asshole for the rest of your life. And then I get to decide if you licked my asshole enough and the right way so that you could get into a heaven that I promise you, wink, wink, exists. But I won't show it to you. And I also will not prove to you that I exist. You just have to believe based on faith, based on a book that someone wrote centuries after these events allegedly happened. And so basically figure it out. And also I just want you to know that this is love. And I love you so much that I will not prove that I exist. And I will not prove that any of the things that I promised you exist. And so you better just follow my rules anyway, just in case. Sounds insane.
Just to be clear, God never, I don't remember God saying we have to lick any part of his body. And I think what y'all are looking for is like a picture of a guy up in the clouds,
subjective,
like throwing down lightning. Well, I think what y'all are looking for is a picture of a guy up in the clouds throwing down lightning bolts with a flowing beard. Yeah, okay, so that kind of God, it does not exist. But when you look at like the universe itself, like just the idea of existence demands an explanation. So y'all don't have anything. Y'all just have like a Big Bang. Well, where'd the Big Bang come from?
Atoms colliding.
Wait.
What do you
mean?
Anthony?
I don't claim to have all of the answers at the beginning of life and the beginning of the universe. I don't even claim to understand all of it, or I don't even know if we have every single answer. But isn't it better to be honest and say, I don't think we have all the answers right now, instead of just saying, oh, God probably did it? Don't you feel like that's more honest for me to be like, maybe I don't know, and that's okay?
Yeah, I don't know, but what are your options? You have question mark, or you have.
Why do I have?
Because it has to be something. It has to be something.
But why is it better?
No, it doesn't. Why does it have to be something?
Why is it better to just guess instead of having the humility to be like, we don't know yet. Maybe one day we'll get those answers, and that would be really cool to fill in all of the gaps. But we don't have that right now, and that is okay, because there are a ton of things on this planet I do not understand, and I'm okay with that. So why is inserting God in those spaces better than being like, yeah, I don't know? Instead of being arrogant enough to be like, I know exactly where the universe came from. I know exactly where life came from. I know exactly how humans work. Like, why would I do that? It doesn't make sense to me.
Because you have to ask, where does the order in the universe? So there's chaos. Chaos is results from. So what is God? God is a creative being with a mind, intelligence.
I don't care if there's order. I don't care if it's chaos or if it's order.
I see chaos.
You have to ask. Where'd the order come from?
I see chaos every single day. Every single day. And I don't see order in our world at all. 30 blocks from where I was yesterday, some guy took a rifle and just shot a whole bunch of people up. Does that seem like order to you?
Yeah. I hate to say this, but in a way, actually, it is, because that's God respecting our free will. That's God having established a certain order. And
I have a question. So it's like super important for God to give everybody free will, but what about the fact that when he gives everybody free will, he takes away other people's free will? So for example, like he's giving this abuser free will to essay this child for years on end. That child's free will is being taken away because they are having someone forcing themselves on them. So why is it that God values the abuser over the child, the innocent child? Why is their free will more important than theirs?
Well,
if free will is like so important to him.
That's what evil is. So you're basically, what you're asking is God to create a system.
Him giving us free will is him creating evil then you're saying he's creating evil by giving us free will.
There's a logical problem here. You're trying to ask God to do. See, you're trying to say, God, make 2 + 2 = 4 and 5. All right. You're trying to say, God, give us free will and make it so that no one ever does anything bad.
You are the one who is saying that.
Does someone have to have the option of essaying? Does somebody have to have the option of essaying a child to have free will?
Yes, he does. Unfortunately, yes. That's the problem with free will.
Wait. You have to have the option to do every horrible thing on this planet, or else you don't have free will. Anthony, what about the fact that I don't have the free will to fly or breathe underwater? He's taking that free will away from me. That's messed up.
You have the free will to do everything that is within your ability to do, okay? So no, you can't.
The abilities he gave me, he took away my free will to have superpowers, dude. I don't like that. That's mean.
You're not going to be able to teleport to Jupiter and go visit other planets. No, you can't.
That's the free will he took away from me.
There's the physical laws, okay, of the universe. So our bodies are constrained. Right. But he gave us free will, and maybe if you go to heaven, you can float around the universe and see all the different stars and stuff. It'll be really cool to follow Jesus.
Okay, Anthony, we've been on this call with you for about an hour, and we have some other callers that I would like to get to.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Sure.
Can I say one more thing? If y'all convert, I need a girlfriend, so I just wanted to... All right, I'm out. Later.
Anthony.
Okay, bye.
The fact that he said, if y'all convert, sir, you're not capable of a critical thought. Get out of here. That's crazy. I can't believe he just said that. What a fucking idiot. Eh?
Anthony, go to church to find a girlfriend. Damn.
I would literally rather strap floss to every single one of my teeth, tie that floss to a pole, and hang from it. But thank you for the offer. Anyway, I want to make an attempt at reading our shows for the rest of the week. We have a very small little chunk of the shows. Oh, because we're at the end of the month. The Hang Up at 6 p.m. Central with Matt on the 30th tomorrow, and TACIS on Thursday at 2 p.m. Central with Josie and Ben. And that's all I have to share because our August schedule is not done yet. I can't believe Anthony said that. That was crazy.
That was a little whack. It's like we live in a country that is like 60% Christians. Like go find you some conservative girl, some Christian girl. They're out there.
It's actually, when you put it that way, it's even funnier because the majority of the women in this country are in his favor, and he doesn't have a girlfriend still.
Yeah. Damn. Damn, Anthony.
Figure that out.
Step up your game.
Okay. Step up your fucking game. Maybe stop being an apologist for child predators, perhaps. Okay. We have 2 more calls. Do you have a preference of which you would like to take first? I don't know if you're in call studio. I don't remember.
Maybe maybe Jessie, since she sounds a little different than our last one.
Okay. Yeah. Let's pull in Jessie calling from Pennsylvania. Hello, Jessie.
Hi there, how are you?
Good. How are
Hi,
you?
Jessie.
I'm good, thank you. So yeah, I'm watching your stream for the first time. I really like the title of the show. I got that talk about being chewed gum at Christian school too, and it was very formative for me in a bad way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough one. Mine was the tape one. Have you heard that one? Where it's like when you put a piece of tape on one person's arm and you peel it off, and then you put it on another person's arm and you peel it off, and then you peel it, and then by the time you find your husband, the tape doesn't stick anymore. That was the one I got.
Yeah, you're all worn out and shit like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also remember being taught that condoms don't work and that HIV passes through condoms, and because of that, you should just wait until marriage and that kind of thing.
Oh my God. Traumatizing.
Yeah, so I was wondering what does purity culture mean for you guys? Because I know it probably differs between people if you ask them what purity culture means and how they interact with that.
I think purity culture is prioritizing what they perceive to be purity above anything else. So, waiting to have sex before marriage. And I think it's the sort of biblical submission definition is the one that we talk about, where it's you are prioritizing the wants and needs of the head of the household. You are probably a little more traditional leaning. Yeah. Being modest, that sort of thing. I don't know if you have any other things to add, Taylor.
No. That's about the gist.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much my conception of it too. It's definitely easy to, if you walk away from a certain, form of Christianity, it's really easy to kind of feel any kind of shame if you have any kind of desires or any attraction to people who are not biblically ordained or that kind of thing. But I don't know. Lately, I've been kind of thinking that for some people, I found that who, when they exit these strict patriarchal Christian sort of sects, they I don't want to say they overcorrect, but I think that for me, I've definitely felt pressure from people to go out and have casual sex and to be polyamorous and I feel there is some pressure on people to to be okay with doing casuals, to have casual sex and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe it's just my remaining vestiges of Catholic shame and or anything like that, but I don't really know where I was going with that. But I'm trying to reconcile what is left of my purity culture upbringing and what is actually my true kind of wants and needs from a partner. You get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and you can make that choice, and that choice is subject to change day by day, partner by partner, or potential partner by partner. The purpose of wanting to eliminate purity culture is because things like purity culture create a system of shame that takes away people's free, the irony is we were just talking about free will for so long, but it takes away people's freedom of choice because you are so inundated with shame that it's hard, it clouds your ability to actually know what you would want. And I totally understand why you feel there's pressure to have casual relationships and to like take it very lightly. And I think I understand also the feeling of like people are overcorrecting. And to some degree, I think you're right, because a really interesting example I think of this is, and I've said this on the show like a handful of times, but so we can look at the places in the US that have comprehensive, medically accurate sex education. And those are the places where teens have sex later in life and they have fewer partners. So if you give people in their youth the whole truth, all of the information, they are more likely to make better choices. States that have abstinence only education are the ones that have the highest rate of STIs and they have the highest rate of teen pregnancies. They also are the states where many of the youth are having sex starting at 13 and 14 years old. So purity culture is and abstinence are sort of hand in hand. Like abstinence is a part of purity culture. And so when you make something really taboo, human beings, we love to break a rule. And so when you make something really taboo, we want to explore and we want to, it makes things way more enticing. And so I do think people probably overcorrect, which, if anything, is more evidence for why we need comprehensive sex education, open conversations about sexuality, and to not demonize it so people can make like level decisions and understand, like, maybe you are a person who's monogamous, maybe you're a person who's polyamorous, maybe you're a person who needs to feel an emotional connection before you have any sexual attraction to people. Like there's a whole spectrum of belief that you'll have access to when you feel the effect of purity culture start to subside.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, you're right. Like, I know that I personally know that a lot of, well, not a lot, but quite a few of the people I went to like evangelical Protestant school with, they got pregnant before they were even able to graduate high school. And like, that's really tragic because like they weren't taught how to approach love and relationships, and they got stuck with a baby that they might not have wanted. And like, it's similar with everything like that's a vice. Like the reason why American drinking culture is so fucked up is because you can't drink till you're 21. People treat it like it's this big mystical thing when it's really just something that people do. So yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. So I do think that most men probably don't deserve women. And I think we should be abstinent for political reasons. So that's like a whole other conversation.
I don't disagree with you in some way, Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand why people are doing that, especially like, where were they doing that? That was like a really big
Korea
movement.
The 4B movement.
It was the 4B.
I totally understand it.
Yeah, for sure. And no, I was like reading about like you guys have probably heard about the T app and how it was like basically just it was a whisper network essentially, and they it's organized like doxing and stalking of women, and meanwhile men they organize like entire group chats to post revenge porn and post like AI porn, and that's somehow okay with them, but whisper networks aren't. And I don't know. I've just been feeling very disillusioned lately with a lot of things.
That was the app, right, where they like posted pictures of men, like, have you dated this man or have you seen him or something, right? Or like talked to him?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When I saw that, it's interesting because I think about the fact how Christianity a lot of times says gossiping is so wrong, and like women always struggle with gossiping and they shouldn't gossip. And I'm like, yeah, you say that because you benefit from women not gossiping, because if like, women talk to each other, they're going to find certain things out and, be informed. So yeah, it sucks to see that happening with that app though, and them actually going after people for that. It's disgusting.
Yeah. And Jesse, I will say, there's a book by Bell Hooks, and it's called The Will to Change. And you can get the audiobook. It's not very long. And it might be something that could be helpful to you. It was helpful to me when I started to feel this way also, because ultimately, when we look at the whole like landscape of it, we're in a really tough spot right now because we have we as women have choices of we either get into fuck all the men and they don't deserve to have access to our time and our bodies and all of that, and kind of go the 4B movement route. And I think that women are perfectly capable of building community. We have always been pretty good at building communities with one another. I think that's kind of why men are in this loneliness epidemic now. I think they were not socialized to build community the way that women are socialized to build community. And I think that women would be honestly fine. However, we would still have this group of men who feels so angry and so betrayed that they could potentially be dangerous, and I don't think it lends itself to the success of all of us. And so you don't have to take on the personal responsibility of doing this, but I think it will be important for people who have the time and space for it to also kind of reach a hand down the ladder and pull up the men who are willing to be understanding and hear us out and contribute to a world where we all can feel safer. And those men do exist. I don't even think that they're that much of the minority, at least in the US. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that's optimistic, but it's important to try and stay balanced to the best of your ability, because there are men who are wonderful and loving and want to create community without over sexualizing women and enjoy the company of women, and those men do exist. So to the best of your ability, finding space for it where you can, finding softness in it where you can, might be helpful. And I also understand why you're feeling very F this.
Sure. And no, I think you're right. At the end of the day, I do just want everyone to have a comfortable life and have meaningful relationships and to be better off than they are now. And I want better lives for women and men alike. I want better lives for everyone. Yeah, I will say I am a believer in God, and I do think that the light of Jesus is within all of us. And so I do believe that everybody has a right to happiness and a comfortable life. And I think that I think you're right with what you're saying.
Jesse, I also just wanted to add that something that felt really good to me as someone who's married, there were a lot of patriarchal norms I did not take part in. I didn't take my husband's last name. I didn't let someone give me away. There are a lot of things where I got to build my relationship how I wanted, that wasn't based on things like sexism or patriarchy. And that felt really good to not have to conform to those type of things. And I don't know, I feel like that's also something to consider when thinking about maybe future relationships or whatever, is it doesn't have to be that. If that's something that you don't believe in or don't think is good.
No, I believe that you can absolutely have a marriage based on egalitarianism. I'm not somebody who believes that marriage is a patriarchal construct or anything like that. I mean, it certainly can be, but I mean, I know lots of good guys out there, many in my family and many in my social circle. And so I definitely believe that people are capable of healthy relationships no matter what gender they are. And you can definitely have those relationships outside of patriarchy.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely can. And you'll get closer and closer to finding what you're looking for, the more that you kind of like unravel the things that are purity culture and not helpful to you, like things that are creating shame and doubt in your ability to make choices about like what makes you happy. And when you started the call, you were talking about how like sometimes you feel pressured to do like one thing or another. Like I said, make the choices that feel right to you. Always. Like, you have no obligation to engage in like, quote, hookup culture. Like, you have no obligation to have, 50 partners before you get married. Like, you can do literally whatever you want, and you are still a person who is worthy of a loving relationship and a family and respect and all of those things. The thing that's really upsetting about purity culture is that it ties so much morality and moral value to our sexuality that doesn't need to be there. So letting go of that purity culture means you get to let go of some of that too.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. It's it's hard being an individual sometimes, especially with a conservative Christian background. I felt, when I left home, I did kind of feel at times that I was like thrust into this like totally unfamiliar world. And it just takes time to navigate. But I think I'm doing pretty good at managing myself for sure.
Okay, great. That makes me so happy. And if you ever feel like you need to talk things like this through, you can always call us and ask questions as things pop up. Like our lines are always open every Tuesday, and unraveling from purity culture, whether you're a theist or not, is challenging, and a lot of people identify with that in our chat and for people who are listening. So those conversations are always welcome here.
For sure. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciated talking to you guys. And I can't believe Anthony was single. I hope he finds a lady someday who will teach him how to be a better person.
Girl, you and I both. Thank you, Jesse, for calling. Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Jesse.
I love it. I love it.
Same.
All right. We have 3 calls in the queue. Do you have a preference of who you would like to take next?
Do you want to take the UK caller?
Yeah, let's do it.
I don't know how to say their name.
Amir into the chat.
Amir?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Amir.
Hi, girls.
Are you there?
How are you both doing?
Good.
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm not too shabby, thank you. How are you both?
We are doing all right.
Great. In the first instance, I have to say that the first caller, his closing words were bloody weird, nothing short of it, and it was a very well-handled call on your part.
Yes, please refrain from asking us out at the end of this call.
And also just wanted to say thank you for standing up and sympathising with the plight of people in Gaza. That's a matter that really hits home, that really hits close to my heart. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, of course. Every day is a fucking horror over there, so it's easy to do.
Absolutely. So I can see that I'm quite renowned now in the chat, and everyone, I mean, based on my conversation with Ara and Ra yesterday, they have a certain impression of me. And I
just looked at the chat.
Looking.
Yeah.
Look, my energy and my tonality matches the person that I'm debating with. Ara and Ra, you guys might already know this. He's a very fierce opponent. And I felt that I was getting consistently interrupted in that debate, which is why I had to up the tone a little bit. But you guys seem a lot more chilled, civilized, so hopefully this can be a healthy discourse and we can, unpack some things that are at the core of my argument. And, I'm hoping to present my version of the contingency argument to you both and seeing what we can make of it.
Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Well, without further ado, so I'm going to just present my premises for the contingency argument, which I guess is going to be of benefit to everyone as well in the room, and the conclusion that I lead from that. So, yeah, without further ado, and at any point as well, just feel free to interject. We can discuss certain premises in more detail. So, starting with premise one, I was going to say, along the lines of that, no system can be the sole cause of its own existence without falling into circular reasoning. It requires an external explanation. I don't know, just as a book can't explain who wrote it without referring to an author, a system can't explain its own creation without pointing beyond itself. And premise two would be natural processes are part of the universe's system and thus cannot account for the system's origin.
So wait, sorry. So for premise one, let's take them like kind of one at a time as best we can. So there's no system without circular reasoning. Like you have to refer to the system itself to be able to explain it. What would be an example of that for you?
Sorry, how do you mean?
What would be an example of how you were describing your first premise of how there is circular reasoning for all systems?
No, I was saying that no system could be the sole cause of its own existence without falling into circular reasoning, that it requires or demands an external explanation.
So do you want to give an example of this so we can get, first of all, a clearer idea, and also that makes it easier to, I don't know, discuss?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think I mentioned that a book can't explain who wrote it without referring to an author. A system can't explain its own creation without pointing beyond itself.
So is this sort of in reference to how like the universe was created, that we can't explain our creation without pointing to an author of that creation?
Yeah, so essentially that natural processes are part of the universe's system and thus cannot account for the system's origin. And so explaining the universe's origin requires either an external cause or a foundational assumption of self-existence.
I understand what you're saying, and I don't know that that's proof for any God existing. Like I do believe that the Big Bang is the best theory that we have, that atoms collided. Atoms are always kind of flying around, and so it makes sense that at some time the atoms that collided would have collided and created this situation, and everything else has been a result of it evolving based on what the collided atoms created. So that doesn't feel right to me. Like I think where we will have a divide is where you're explaining a divine author. I would explain a kind of coincidence. Like the atoms collided because the atoms were at some point bound to collide, and really we don't need a reason for why they collided. They just did. And for you, your reasoning there would be a divine source, and for me, I don't feel like that is a reason that doesn't resonate with me at all.
Yeah, okay, so just maybe a couple of points there. At this stage, outlining premises 1 and 2, I haven't actually got to any sort of conclusion that God is the best explanation as to why anything at all exists. That there on your part, I believe, would be a leap of faith. But getting to your other point about, the reason that atoms of so-and-so just collided, it's just because they did it. You take it as a brute fact. I would say to that point that claiming that the universe was just, in this case, that atoms colliding is a brute fact it's arbitrary and it's improvable. I would say that a self-existent God provides a more coherent explanation because God's nature, unlike atoms colliding, is defined as necessarily existent and not contingent.
I still don't. I think move forward with your points because I think you're right. I want to hear the conclusion, and I also don't think that. But many times when I have these conversations with theists, it's like I don't know, therefore God, which is not enough reason for me. For me, the reason is I don't know, so I don't know. And that's that. But I'm curious to hear the rest of your points and see how they all tie together into a conclusion.
Sure, absolutely. And hopefully I'll just make a very quick prefix there. This is not a God of the gaps argument. It is a philosophical train of thought that is underpinned by logic. So premise 3, which I think actually is something that most atheists accept, is that if we're looking to explain the origins of the universe, then it either requires an external cause or a foundational assumption of self-existence. Now, for most atheists, they would just say that the universe exists as a brute fact and we wouldn't have to invoke a God. And that's where usually the point of contention comes. Now, in all of this, there are some, let's call it, foundational assumptions, some problems with having a foundational assumption of an eternal universe. And we come across various philosophical issues such as traversing infinity. So the way that atheists commonly tend to avoid this point is that they would infer to an infinite past, that the universe is eternal and therefore we don't have to appeal to a creator because the universe has always existed. And to that point, I would say that an infinite past cannot logically lead to the present because infinity has no end. And maybe another way of paraphrasing it is that an infinite past defies coherence, as there is no starting point to reference, making concepts like adding nonsensical. Maybe one other way of even rephrasing this is that an eternal past lacks a first cause, leading to an infinite regress that violates causality. And so the way that I'm approaching this is by trying to illustrate the absurdities of an eternal past. I'm trying to add credence to the fact that there must have been a starting point.
So my thought while you were explaining all of this, and I was taking notes and being an active listener, and my thought while you were explaining all of this is kind of echoing what we talked about with Anthony, which is if a God exists and the life that he has created for us, and I'm going to speak from the Catholic or Christian God because that's what I know, and I'm not sure if that's the one you're referring to. If this God exists and he has created this system where I've given you this book, this is basically an open book test. I've given you this book, read all of this information. If you do the things that I requested of you, you will have eternal life. If it were that cut and dry and that simple, why would we need to have this level of debate around it? Like, this is a person who has been able to create all things. He is powerful enough to create all things, including an integration of our free will. And yet we have to go through this process of, well, if we are not sure of who the author is, therefore God. If we have to look for outside influences for the origin of the universe, therefore God. Why can a person who allegedly has immense power, the most powerful being that exists, why can he not at any point in modern history, now especially now that we have recorded history, why has he never proven his existence in an irrefutable way? Why do we have to go through an entire rigmarole, just dissecting everything at a level that is like, you know, that is so elevated. Why would that be like a perfect like you would think that he would create a perfect system because that's what he is capable of, and yet you know, here we are.
It's a very good question. I will respond to that question in one moment, but in the first instance, I'm just going to point out that I feel like you're moving the goalpost, because I was providing an argument from contingency as to why the existence of God is plausible, and what you have done is that you have now reduced it as to say, well, if we grant that a God exists, then someone who has, you know, immense power, why can't he, has never proven his existence in a very overtly obvious way.
So I'll tell you, I don't think that it is, the reason is because, is a God plausible? Maybe. I am open to believing that if one day God were to appear in a way where it was irrefutable to me that he existed, I would be like, okay, there is a God. And I would, you know, it's plausible. My point is that, and the reason why I don't believe is because I don't think that it's true at this time. It's like, is it plausible that that if I get a motorcycle and I mean, this is like kind of a shitty example, but it's the first one that's coming to my head. Is it plausible that if I get a motorcycle and I ride it every single day on a highway, that I will never get into an accident and I will be totally fine? Yeah, that's plausible. But like, I also don't want to get a motorcycle because it's also a possibility that I will have a really terrible end with that motorcycle. Like, just because something is plausible doesn't mean that it is the only option. And then we go through the process of like basing our entire life and our lifestyle and our ethics and our morals based on the plausibility of something existing.
Sure, but if something is plausible, I think we would both agree that it is likely. If I say, for example, to your point, it is plausible that if you get on a motorcycle, you will have an accident, you would interpret that as saying, it is likely that I will have an accident. So when I say that God's existence is plausible, I'm saying that it is likely. I'm not talking in absolute or definite terms. I'm just making statistical, probabilistic claims here. Now,
but that
I can also...
plausible and likely don't feel the same to me. Those are not the same thing.
Sure, I mean, on a deeper level of semantics, we can make that distinction, but for practical purposes, you can say that the terms are almost synonymous. For example, again, just to what I said, if I said that
no, but I would disagree that they're... I would disagree that they're synonymous because even in using the example of the motorcycle again, you could say it's plausible that you'll get into an accident, and the reason why you value that plausibility is because you're doing a risk-benefit analysis. The risk for me in that situation outweighs the benefit of looking really cool on a motorcycle. But for some people, the benefit will outweigh the risk. Such is the way that we process plausibility. It's not that it's likely, it's that it's plausible. So you can do a risk-benefit analysis and decide. So in the same way, when I look at the plausibility of God existing and I do a risk-benefit analysis, I don't like what I'm looking at. And so I'm not going to refute that there is plausibility that he exists, but at this time, the plausibility is not enough of a benefit. It doesn't provide enough of a benefit for me to engage with the risk.
Right, okay. Just so I can understand, I mean, I don't want to get hung up here on trivial semantics, and I'm happy to even replace the word plausible with likely if it adds credence to the point that I'm trying to make here. But just take these two statements here. Alyssa, I think it is plausible that if you get on that motorbike, you're going to have an accident, versus Alyssa, I think if you get on that motorbike, it is likely that you're going to have an accident. How would you say that those two statements differ in terms of its overarching meaning?
Because one is saying it's just possible in general, and the other one is saying it's likely. Those just are not the same. Right,
so we're saying that the word likely here carries with it higher degree of certainty than the word plausible.
Yes, I think so.
But issued in that way, in the way that the sentence is formulated, if, let's just say, your mum says, Alyssa, if you get on that motorbike, it is plausible that you're going to have an accident. Do you genuinely, hand on heart, think that she means there's a slight possibility that you're going to have an accident, or do you think she means that there is a high likelihood that you're going to have an accident?
Well, I think if she were trying to communicate to me the risk, if she were trying to communicate to me, this is a risk that you are going to get. There's a significant risk that you are going to get into an accident, and me as a mom, I'm going to demonstrate my concern because I want you to be safe. I would never use the word plausible. I would use something closer to likely. Like if it were my actual mom, she'd be like, Alyssa, you're an idiot. You're going to get into an accident. Get off the bike. It would not be, you wouldn't say plausible, because that doesn't demonstrate the thing that you're trying to demonstrate.
If somebody said something was plausible to me, I would think that means they're saying there's a chance, and it doesn't say anything about the likelihood of that chance at all. It just means
I agree.
Yeah,
there is a chance.
I agree. I think we're all in agreement here. I think the word itself also is context specific, and that can also give you a better idea of how plausible or how likely something is. But I want to go back to one of the points that you made before. I think it was you, Elise, that made the point that if God is someone who has immense power, then why can't he, throughout modern history, why has he never proven his existence in an obvious way? And I think that's a really, really good question. And to that point, I want to say that you don't always need an explanation of something if it's the best explanation that we have, because again, you'll end up going down the route of infinite regress. And I'll give you an analogy. Like, let's just say, for example, if all three of us were taking a stroll in some really far away distant planet, and we, between us, came across a very sophisticated artifact, like it was so fucking sophisticated, then between the three of us, we could conclude that the best explanation for this artifact are probably extraterrestrials. Now, we don't need to know who those extraterrestrials are, where they've come from, or what their motive is in order to conclude that the best explanation for this artifact is extraterrestrials. And I can give other kind of analogies like this. So the point that I'm trying to drill here is that we don't always need an explanation of something if it's the best explanation that we have. Otherwise, we go down the route of infinite regress. Now, well, before I continue, I'll first ask you both, what are your thoughts on that?
I personally would never think it's aliens, so I'm having a hard time with this. Like, I would never make an assumption about something like that doesn't already exist in our world. Like, my first instinct would be to associate it with something that we know exists. I just wouldn't assume it was something supernatural or aliens or anything like that.
So what explanation could you possibly fathom for coming across a very sophisticated artifact on a distant planet? I know it's a out there hypothetical situation.
Oh, you said on a different planet?
I mean, I can give you an example that brings it back down to earth, if you like. So let's just say, for example, I don't know, you go out in your backyard, your garden, and you start digging a hole, and you continue to dig, and you come across some clay pots and some spearheads, etc. You would probably infer that the best explanation for those clay pots and those spearheads was that once upon a time, an ancient civilization used to reside here. But you wouldn't need to know who that ancient civilization was, where they came from, what their motives were, etc., to conclude that the spearheads and whatnot that you found came from an ancient civilization. So you don't always need an explanation of something if it's the best explanation that you have.
Are you familiar with the watchmaker fallacy? That's what the conversation that you're engaging in now. Have you heard of this before?
Yeah, and this is not a watchmaker fallacy, but you can tell me what you think it is.
The reason I think it is because the watchmaker fallacy is you're saying because there is a design, there must be a designer. That is literally what it is. And I feel like that's sort of the conversation we're having, where it's not I understand what you're saying, where because there is a design, it is plausible that there is a designer. However, plausibility is not enough. It's not enough. And even in the case of you find this artifact and you don't know where it came from, can you make a conclusion that it's an alien? Can you make a conclusion that it's an ancient civilization? When we find things as human beings that we cannot find the root of, what we do is we search until we find an answer. And sometimes, if not all of the time, we do. And there are very few truly unexplained things that happen, or that exist. And so I feel like that is also a reason why I have a hard time getting on board with this thought process, because I don't really find many things in this world to be so unexplainable, therefore God.
Sure. Now, just to that point, I would say that the reason why this is not a watchmaker fallacy is because in both instances of the analogies that I've given, whether it's coming across spearheads and clay pots in your back garden versus a very sophisticated artifact, you could say with a very high degree of probability that it is not something that has miraculously came about through natural processes. It is more likely, again, it's a statistical claim, it is more likely that it was the result of someone who created it, not God in this instance.
Yeah, but because we have evidence, we have other evidence to tell us that clay pots that look like this, that were found in this area, they were made by this group of people in this period of time. So we have reason to believe those things.
Exactly, we do. So then why are you accusing me of saying that it's a watchmaker fallacy? You've just agreed itself.
Because we have no reason to believe that there is a God to create anything. The reason why when we find like clay pots and we're able to date them is because we have proof. We have no proof of a God. So they're not the same.
But what I was trying to illustrate there is that you don't always need an explanation of an explanation if it's the best explanation that you have. So when you was asking,
in what circumstance is the best explanation ever God? I have not found that.
Well, for example, when I was debating the contingency argument at the start, I was trying to point out the absurdities of things like an eternal past. That wasn't something that we debated to its entirety, and why God is a much better explanation as to why anything at all exists, rather than appealing to natural processes.
Hasn't God always existed? Do you not believe that God has always existed? What's the difference there between the universe always existing and God has always existed?
Well, when we talk about God being
who created God? Who created God?
Well, when we talk about questions like who created God, it's not a question that applies as such, because God is not a slave to time. Space, time, matter, and energy are all created.
You're doing some special pleading then. You've decided that the rule doesn't apply to God, but it does apply to the universe?
No, it's not special pleading. You see, again, this was back in premise 2 that I said that natural processes are part of the universe's system and thus cannot account for the system's origin. And so to explain the universe's origin requires an external cause or a foundational assumption of self-existence. You see, look, the universe demonstrates characteristics of contingency. Sorry, go on.
No, it's okay. I just completely reject that it's okay for God to have existed forever, but not the universe. I just completely reject that in general. I think that doesn't make any sense. I think we came up with the concept of God so we can say that, but it doesn't really mean anything to me, because we don't know that. We don't know that like that rule is okay for God, but it wouldn't apply to the universe. We just simply do not know if that's true.
Well, we can arrive at that conclusion through 2 ways. We can first arrive at it through philosophy. hopefully I can try to persuade you. I mean, the first one is the general consensus amongst the scientific community is that the universe had a starting point, that was the Big Bang. And that was the point at which space, time, matter, and energy all came into creation. I agree that there's going to be a handful of scientists out there that propose more radical theories that it has always existed. But for the most part, that is the cosmological agreement that those things came into creation at the point of the Big Bang. The second one is, again, just following the chain of thought with the contingency argument. You see, look, the universe, it demonstrates characteristics of contingency. It changes, it depends on physical laws, and could conceivably have been different. And this requires an explanation outside itself. In contrast, God is posited as necessary by nature, existing independently of external factors. And a necessary being explains the existence of contingent realities because it must exist in all possible worlds, whereas the universe does not exhibit the same necessity. This makes God, rather than the universe, a much better likely candidate for an uncaused cause.
I just do not agree with that.
You're losing me a little bit with the contingency agreement. I'm not really understanding what you're saying here, like what you're trying to demonstrate, because I don't. It still feels like a we don't know therefore God argument to me, and I feel like I'm either missing it or not understanding it, or that's what's happening here.
Could I ask you kindly to try to steelman my argument? Could you tell me what your understanding of the contingency argument is, and then perhaps we can clear up any confusion?
For all of this to work, wouldn't we have to know like everything about the universe, and we don't?
I was asking you to steelman my argument. Or rather, just steelmanning the contingency argument.
What I'm understanding is we don't understand, therefore God. That's what I'm understanding. So you asked me to explain the contingency agreement that I'm understanding. What I'm understanding is what you're describing is because we don't have answers to every single thing, we fill in the gaps with God, and then suddenly it exists. It makes sense. Sorry, not it exists. It makes sense.
I'll ask the question again, because I think what you're saying doesn't really get to the crux of it. What is your, and it's the contingency argument, not the contingency agreement. Hopefully we'll all come to an agreement.
But if I'm not understanding, then I need you to, if I'm not understanding, then you need to explain it to me. Explain it to me. Simpler, slower, get rid of the word salad. What is it? What is it that you're trying to describe? Because I'm feeling like it's a lot of like, I feel like there's also a lot of word salad around what you're saying.
But this is the thing, though. This is the thing. Just off the bat, do you both have any understanding of what the contingency argument is, irrespective of what I've said? If someone had asked you both, what is your understanding of the contingency argument?
This is not a quiz. Explain.
Yes.
This is not a quiz.
Yes. You're saying everything in the universe is contingent on something, but because you think that doesn't mean that the universe itself is contingent on something. We don't know that. We have no idea if that's true. That's what I'm getting at.
It's exactly what I've been saying.
But
it's exactly what I've been saying.
We don't have anything for that.
It's exactly what I've been saying, Amir. You are taking this idea of contingency and filling in all of the gaps where you cannot find the reason, and you are applying God. You are filling in the gaps with God because it feels comfortable, it makes sense to you. That doesn't mean it's true. It might mean for you that it's plausible. It can be plausible if that's where you want to go with it, but that doesn't mean that it's true, and that is not a reason enough for me to accept it.
So to Taylor's point, first and foremost, do you therefore think, Taylor, that there is an infinite chain of contingent things, or do you think that there is a starting point, so to speak, and that starting point is the universe, and we don't have to invoke a God? Or indeed, is it something else that you are advocating?
It's a boring answer, but I genuinely don't know, and I don't pretend to know. I don't pretend to know if there was a beginning or if it always existed or anything, because I genuinely don't think we know that. So I don't, like I said to Anthony, I don't really see the point in guessing. I just don't find that satisfying in any kind of way.
But there are some things that we can ascertain just through logical inquiry. For example, that the universe cannot be eternal.
We don't know that. Like, you keep saying that, but we do not know that. Like, we know, like, that just doesn't make sense to me. There's no proof of that.
There's proof. I mean, mathematicians across the board and a lot of mainstream physicists would agree, and cosmologists agree that infinities cannot exist in the real world.
How do they know that? If you're saying that mathematicians and physicians say that, how do they know?
Well, you see, look.
If you were to ask them,
we can derive it both in terms of just philosophical. I'll give you an example.
Mathematicians are not going to lean on philosophy. Mathematicians are not going to lean on philosophy. So if that is something that they really believe, that means that they have proof based on other things to believe that that may be true. That's where these things are not going to be the same. Your proof is not proof. It is faith. It is, I believe that everything is dependent on something else, and because I don't know what the universe was dependent on, therefore God. And that's not proof. That is faith, and that's fine, but that's not proof.
Well, we have mathematical proofs as to why there can't be an infinite past, and you can think of it in terms of
okay, great. So we have mathematical proof. That's exactly what I was saying. They had proof. We don't have proof of God. If they have proof of the universe not existing forever, great, fine. Then there's proof of it. There is no proof that God created this universe.
Also, wouldn't that tell you that it's likely, if you're saying that they can prove that, wouldn't that also lead you to believe that God couldn't have always existed as well?
No, because that goes back to the point that God is outside of space and time. So,
but we just assign that to him. We just assign that to him. We just say that. It doesn't mean anything.
We assign it to him by a matter of necessity, because we are saying that there has to be a necessary foundation as to why all contingent things exist.
But so if we are assigning it out of necessity, that means you are literally backfilling the gaps of things that you don't understand with God. This is exactly what I've been saying on this whole call, is you don't have the answers, and you backfill it with God fits the bill. But God is something that human beings, in my opinion, created. So yeah, you can create this omnipresent being that is the reason why we have all of these things happen. And of course, it's going to look perfect because we created it. We designed it to be perfect. And there is no what is the difference? If I tell you that I believe, if you've ever spoken to Promise, I'm sure she used this analogy with you. Why can't I say there is a pink unicorn, and she has been around since the beginning of time, and she created the world, and actually originally the world was pink, and then it started to evolve, and then it became what it is now. Like, I can do that too. I can make something up and then backfill all of it into the gaps where we don't have knowledge.
The problem with a pink unicorn is that a pink unicorn has parameters in that it is made up of matter. It is made up of energy.
No, unicorns are not real. Unicorns are not real. They do not exist, so they can be whatever I say it is. So if I'm telling you that a pink unicorn is omnipresent.
Cool, then what you're describing here is God. You're essentially conceding that God exists, but it happens to be a pink unicorn.
No, but my pink unicorn does not subscribe to the Bible. My pink unicorn did not send a person down. My pink unicorn thinks that abortion is totally fine. My pink unicorn, I can do this for days. Why is what you are describing to me, it feels more and more clear that what you're describing to me is human beings did not have answers for things. And so what they did was they created a perfect way to backfill everything that we didn't know. So in the same way, actually, this might be a good example. There was probably a period of time where when people had a cold and we did not have an understanding of what the common cold was, if people were to at some point heal from this cold, and every single day they prayed and prayed and prayed to their God to heal them from this cold, and they do finally heal from the cold, that person at that time would say, "This is a miracle. God granted this to me." But we know now that it was just a cold. And if you had enough fluids, you had enough rest, you had enough water, and your immune system was in a good place, you would heal from that cold. This is exactly what I feel like you're doing.
I don't feel like I'm doing that at all. And I agree, going back maybe 100 years ago, if someone had the cold and they prayed to God, they would believe that God is the reason why they were healed. But that's completely disingenuous to the point that I'm making. Can I approach this in another way? And if we don't make any progress on this, I'm happy to kind of draw the line. I just kind of want to look at it more from a psychological perspective. And what I mean by that is this is true for atheists as well, but it's also, the case that we have a lot of very highly intelligent people like both yourselves as well. I regard you both as intellectual heroes, and a lot of credit to you both. Indeed, there are also incredibly intelligent people that believe in God who are intellectually persuaded that God is, a very, I don't want to use the word plausible here for all the reasons that we discussed before, but God's existence is highly likely, and they're intellectually persuaded by that. I just want to ask you both a question. For people that are highly intelligent, even more intelligent than all three of us, why do you think that they are so deeply convinced in the existence of God? Like, what is it that...
Because you can be highly intelligent and fear death. You can be highly intelligent and fear dying and what happens afterwards. Religion has nothing to do with intelligence and everything to do with faith and fear. The entire system of religion relies on the fear of damnation and the fear of not going to heaven, and you will do anything to have that not be your reality. So you can be extremely intelligent and still be extremely fearful. And also to that point, Amir, for as long as religion has existed, people have had counter arguments to it. And for as long as we've been doing, even, let's just limit it to our time on the line, we have had people with varying degrees of intelligence. We also have people who debate the existence of God in many different platforms with many different highly intelligent people, and we have yet to find irrefutable evidence of God. And so sometimes, and I hope you don't take offense to this because I don't mean it to be offensive, but I do think that sometimes when there are callers who call into this show or decide that they want to take on this task, I think, what arrogance do people have to think that they are the one person on this earth? God, I hope that they write a book, do a TED Talk, tour the world with this information because they think they've found the irrefutable evidence. You know what I mean? Like, how have we gone this far in any of this work?
I agree. I mean, look, I don't think we'll ever find irrefutable evidence for the existence of God. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having these dialogues right now. I would make 2 points to what you said. The first one is, there is a distinction, I guess, between religion and the belief in God. I'm not religious myself. I don't subscribe to any religious denomination. I'm not Christian. I'm not Muslim. And for all the reasons why you guys criticize other callers, I'm on your side there. I don't believe in religion, but I believe in God. So I think it's unfair of you to say that the belief in God requires you to be religious, or at least alluding to that. You may not have said it verbatim. The second thing is, do you genuinely think that all of the intellectual people who are at the forefront of theism believe in God because they fear dying? Is that really, really the root cause of why they believe these things?
I think, number one, no matter how intelligent you are, you could have some blind spots or maybe believe in things that aren't exactly provable, but I think it's maybe easy for extremely intelligent people to believe in God because, like I said earlier, we don't have all the answers. So if they want to continue to put God in those areas where we don't have answers, they can do that because they're not
Great.
denying any kind of proof.
Ex-
But I also want to say that things like a lot of intelligent people in our past who believed in God even when they like got into their careers and stuff, they were born into that religion. Indoctrination is one hell of a drug, so it just wouldn't be shocking to me if they were holding on to that for cultural
Completely.
reasons or they genuinely believed it since they were little, so they're going to continue to believe it and they haven't seen anything to convince them otherwise.
Really, really good point. 3 really good points there. And to that, I would say the exact really good points that you've made there can also apply to atheists. You made the point that you can have some blind spots no matter how intelligent you are. I agree to that 100%. Do you therefore agree that you can also have some blind spots? The second point that you made is they don't have all the answers. Does that therefore mean that you have all the answers? You probably don't have all the answers. You might also have some blind spots.
No, but we've
Now,
said that
indoctrination
we don't have answers. We've said over and over
Sure.
in this call we don't have answers.
Sure, but you can have blind spots, right? No matter how intelligent you are. So those
Sure,
blind
of
spots
course you can.
Now, exactly. So therefore, if you agree, if we all agree that collectively all of us can all have blind spots and not just single out fears, and atheists can also have blind spots, do you therefore think there is a chance that those blind spots that you both have could also be the reason why you're restricted in believing that God's existence could actually be likely?
I told
there
you that
could
it's
be-
plausible.
Yeah, there could be
think,
things that
sorry, go ahead, Taylor.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I feel like there are things maybe I couldn't see as evidence that someone else would say it's evidence, but the fact is we don't have like solid proof. So there's no kind of proof that I'm actively denying or rejecting. I'm just not accepting something without proof. That's all that's happening. And I don't consider rejecting something that doesn't have proof to be a blind spot because there's nothing to turn a blind spot to. There is no proof to have the blind spot for.
But the theist would turn around and say that there is proof. This is what I can see, or rather, this is the evidence that I can see. Why can't you see it? This is your blind spot, but it's not my blind spot. But you can equally turn around and say, well, no, that is not evidence. That is your blind spot. So in fact, what we actually end up getting down to is epistemology. What actually makes something more likely than unlikely? What makes something more true than untrue? It becomes epistemology. God, that's a hard word to pronounce. Yeah. I wanted to make one last side point as well about indoctrination being one hell of a drug. So true. And I would say, in fact, to that, a lot of religious people, irrespective of how intelligent they are, adopt their beliefs because of how they were brought up. That is absolutely true. I would also say as well to that level of indoctrination is also true to atheists as well, especially with communities that exist, especially when you make careers out of it as well. There's going to be that level of indoctrination.
Not all of
and
us,
it's also true for
all of us found atheism separately. Like, we all found it for different reasons, and I don't think any of us were indoctrinated. I think the main difference, Amir, that I feel in the way that atheists function and the way that people of faith function is there's always going to be this little gap in it where the faith lives, right? Like, part of being religious is believing without proof. It is, I believe that God exists even if I don't see, feel, whatever him. For an atheist, we have decided that that is not enough. The truth matters more than a leap of faith. And so for us, unless there is proof that this is what is true, I have no reason to take that leap of faith. Like, to what end? To what benefit? I'm okay with not knowing the answers to things.
And I would criticize any theist who believes in God without proof. That's the distinction that I would make between believing in God with faith and believing in God with blind faith, right? There is, of course, going to be that element.
But what proof does anyone have? Like, that's why we have this show. That's why we take calls over and over, is we're looking for any proof, and we have yet to find any of it. So all of it is believing without proof.
Yeah, and that's where I am bringing it down to something more deeply rooted in psychology, because what a lot of theists see as proof, atheists do not see as proof. And this is why these debates continue to go on. And we've all acknowledged collectively that we all have blind spots, right? So this actually becomes something much more nuanced in psychology. And this is why I think maybe, and you know what, actually, through this conversation, and I thank you both, maybe being a strong theist or being a strong atheist probably isn't the most intellectually honest viewpoint or position to have. Maybe just being a flat out agnostic, or, you know, just somewhere in the middle is probably the best place to be on this matter.
And I'm happy to be that. I don't care. Like, whatever the label is, I don't really care. Sorry, Taylor. I feel like you've been wanting to...
No, it's okay. I also want to ask if you think it says anything that, at least I know the statistics in the United States. I don't know about the world. I think it's maybe harder to get those stats. But in the United States, only about 4% of people join Christianity if they weren't raised in it. And when it comes to people who grow up in religion and end up leaving and becoming atheist, the statistic is way higher. Like 70% of atheists are raised religious. Do you think that says something about that? Like in terms of indoctrination and stuff and how that works?
Bloody good question. Really good question. To that point, I would say that it's very nuanced. You see, for example, atheists, when they're debating against theists represent so many different positions. A theist can be a Muslim, they can be a Christian, they can be, you know, a Sikh, a Hindu, etc. So the amount of ammunition an atheist has to take down a theist is a lot greater, and therefore the perceived perception of atheism is going to be more intellectually superior, which is why when you look at places like YouTube, a lot of these YouTube shorts, etc., they're very convincing, because when there's some, I don't know, dumbfounded Muslim person saying that Prophet Muhammad flew to the moon on a winged horse, that is stupid. And the perception, therefore, of believing in God appears to be stupid, right? And we can all agree on that. So it's a very fucking stupid claim to make. So to your point, it is very nuanced. I think there's a very small cohort of arguments for the existence of God separate to religion that I think are very intellectually persuading, which a very small cohort of people like myself also believe in. These are not the sort of debates that are publicized on places like YouTube. They're not very entertaining. You know, I think on my last call yesterday, Luxander said that these debates are more for performance reasons, you know, they're for entertainment reasons, and really intellectually challenging debates. They're not entertaining. You can also see that on your own chat. I would say that out of all of the conversations that you...
I don't think that that's true across the board. I think when we have conversations where we actually are like in this conversation, I guess this, whatever. There have been many times where we have shows where we are actually not debating anyone at all. And I look in the chat and the feedback that we get is, this was a really great show. Like, this was really nice. So I understand why the debate is part of the entertainment, but I think it's not fair to say that it being part of the entertainment is because because the intelligent argument is not entertaining enough. I don't think that's true. That's when you really get to be dueling with it, where it's sort of like, you know, going back and forth and really feeling like we're in a spirited debate. We're being able to like have counterpoints for each other. So I don't think that's true. And yeah, I think where we're going to have a disconnect is even like on the psychological front. Of course, psychologically, it feels better to have God be a part of your life. Like there have been many times where people have called and said that, you know, we Promise and I had an entire phone call where someone spent the entire thing trying to convince us that if we were Republicans, we would be happier, and we didn't disagree with them. It's the same thing. It's like, it doesn't feel like living in truth. It feels like living in ignorance to me. It's like kind of the same deal. So I don't think I understand the psychological perspective of like, if you are, that people are psychologically, maybe more inclined to believe in God because it feels good and it gives them answers. Like, that makes sense to me, but that doesn't mean it's true. And that's the biggest thing that we are constantly looking for here, is what is the truth? And in reality, like, I guess I would prescribe more to being agnostic. I don't know. And to be perfectly honest, I don't really care that much. Like, it doesn't affect my life in any way it only positively affects my life to no longer have the burden of a God. Like, that was only a burden to me. So to have that be released from my life feels great. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I would say this much as well. Just through these conversations that I've had with the line, I'm participating more so because I find these questions to be very pressing. You two as debaters have been incredibly respectful, and I really like the way that the discourse has unfolded. Just out of morbid curiosity, do you have other callers waiting to join the line? Because if so, I'll give them the opportunity to speak.
Are there any, sorry, what was your question? Are there any other callers on the line?
Yeah, waiting to join the line.
There aren't, because we're at the end of the show, actually. So you are our last caller, and then we'll wrap and call it a night. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like to think they save the best till last. Right. Well, look, I'm gonna just kind of part. I'm gonna part ways, not in some cringy way that Anthony did. I'm gonna really say that I respect both of you genuinely, and that comes from like a place of pure respect. You guys have been wicked debaters, and I really wish the best for both of you. And I'll say goodbye to the chat. I'm not a troll at the chat. I'm not here to troll. Please don't conflate me as a troll. And I wish the best for everyone. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amir. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So, okay, here's a thing that I feel like I've learned with callers like Amir, because I know he is that a stress, like, what is that? A s'more?
It's a s'more, and I should have had it this whole time. What the hell? I put it here for a reason.
Really cute.
Next time.
Really cute.
Next time the s'more will come out.
Yeah. What I think with people like Amir is sometimes, and this is more of a reflection of me and how I process things more than anything else, when people are getting really into, and this is why my first question to him was, if this is true, why do we have to go through this whole, like, all of this very complicated reasoning? You're throwing like a lot of vocabulary, a lot of like philosophical and what's it called? Like all of these like debate things, like there's like it's the word salad, it's the theories, it's the whatever. And when it gets to that point, I get sort of like, I actually don't think that what this conversation is necessary. Like what you've created here is something where it makes me feel like I don't understand. And in reality, I do understand, and it is more simple. Like in that conversation with Amir, I kept saying, what you are describing in my interpretation is, I don't understand, therefore God. And he had this reaction of like, you just boiled down everything I just said. But when we continued in that call, and we were in that call for like, I don't know, 40 minutes, that was what he was saying, was I don't understand, therefore God. And like, that's what it was pretty much the whole time.
I feel like I'm boring with it, but when someone says something like, you know, God can be eternal, but the universe can't, or whatever, there's nothing really more for me to say, because I just completely reject that. I just like some of the things he was stating as like factual, I'm completely rejecting, and I don't agree. So it's hard to argue from there, because I'm not accepting his like the beginning part of it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of boring, but like I'm just like on my end, but I'm just kind of like I reject that. Therefore, I don't really take it further than that because I reject it to begin with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like when people try to explain the existence of the Catholic God and then they use or Christian God and they use the Bible. Like it's like, well, hang on. Cuz of course, wait. It's like there's a meme that I think Promise created and it's like a surge protector so it has like all of the outlets
Oh
and
yeah,
it's plugged
we were
into
talking about
itself.
we were talking about how
that's what it
somebody needs to
feels
keep that
like.
on hand.
Yeah, yes, we do. Because that's what it feels like. It's like, talk about circular reasoning. What are we talking about? Anyway,
Yeah.
shall we get to some super chat? Oh, super chats? Hello, I cut
Yes.
myself off. I muted myself by accident. Okay. 2000 something from BP Blackpink. I don't know what that currency is. So if someone in the chat can tell me, I know they'll tell me very quickly and I will correct myself. Religion is just another tool of patriarchy Indian rupee. See? So fast. Thank you so much. Religion is just another tool of patriarchy to oppress women and then call it honoring women, period. And dog is more faithful than any god, period. I agree. Dogs are more faithful
I agree
than any
too.
god.
Period. $10 from Jack Neeson. Bruh, just because I can't think of a reason doesn't mean there isn't one. Anthony, bro, that's your job to tell us. You are one who has to prove your God is God. Yeah, it was so bizarre. Like when he said all suffering is necessary, and then I asked about specific kinds of suffering that obviously isn't necessary. He's just like, well, we just don't know. Or like, I don't know. And it's like, okay, then maybe like don't make that argument to begin with if you can't back it up with anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Anthony, at least I feel like sometimes it's like Anthony felt like a poor man's Amir, you know? That's what it felt like.
I understand. That's funny.
$5 from Monkey, a typewriter. Hi, Monkey. Anthony, amazed that God gave us free thought, staunchly refuses to apply it, immediately retreats to condescension, peppered with sexism. F you, Anthony. Right. Right. I know. That was crazy.
$4.99 from Donkey Butt, showing my support for the show and network. Love Taylor's energy in the first call. Also, Anthony, heaven is the world God could have created for us. Exactly. No, exactly. Like when people talk about how great heaven is and they still have free will, I'm like, why couldn't that have just been the starting point? I don't get it.
Why did we have to do all of this?
Yeah.
I don't know. Thanks, Donkey Butt. We didn't. We did not. Crazy. Thanks, Donkey Butt. $5 from Charlotte, representing as one of those billion traps. Hey, love you guys, Charlotte. Oh, I guess one of the enticing traps that is set out for us everywhere.
Wait,
along the way. Remember, I think this is like in reference to how I was saying, like God created a world with like rules and then created a million different traps for us to fall into.
Yes.
And Charlotte
I remember.
is a trap. Love it.
$10 from Crystal. Anthony is dishonest. No matter what you say, he'll say the opposite. If he's real, his religion has turned him into a bad person, or he holds onto religion because it allows him to be a bad person. I don't know, but I do know his arguments were not there. Like, literally just not there. Not even bad, just not there. So,
yeah.
There's that.
Yeah. Yeah. $5 from Space Barbarian. Why does nobody have as much evidence for God as they do for dogs? As they do for dogs? Well, we see dogs. I feel like I don't understand. Why does nobody have as much evidence for gods as they do for dogs? Because we see them. Because we can hold them. Because we can snuggle them.
I feel like I'm missing something.
Me too. Maybe I'm just tired.
Same. $5 from Bobby Kingston. Is that how you say it? Kingston?
Keniston.
Alyssa knows my favorite. Keniston. Alyssa knows my favorite hymn. Oh, holy hole, how sweet the taste. I lick it every day. I'm always here to tongue your rear. In your name I pray. Amen. Wow, that is some poetry, if I've ever seen it.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love it.
round
I
of
forgot
applause.
I forgot that I kept saying
There was a lot of talk about
God's
licking holes
butthole.
tonight, so.
There really was. There really was. My boyfriend watched one of the shows that we did like maybe a week or two ago, and he's like, I happened to tune in right when you said a hole's a hole. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I knew it was gonna be something like that.
You know, listen.
That's funny.
And I stand by it. $5 from Eliash on a silver bow. I know Anthony thought he was making a joke, but that is not how you end a call. Way to add the ick to an already terrible call. Yeah, I'm sure he thought that was really funny. We did not think it was funny, and I thought it was really lame and cringy.
$20 from Ayla? Ursus?
Yeah.
I know I'm butchering this. I'm so sorry. I don't think Anthony was
No, I think that was
serious,
right.
not after he called God Sky Daddy. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to tell.
I know. I thought that was kind of funny that I said Sky Daddy and he just said Sky Daddy so
and then
seriously.
he started
I was like,
using it.
Yeah, I know. £5 from the fuzzy logic. As soon as Anthony said, "Can I say one more thing?" I knew it was going to be something gross. Pretty sure he was just a troll cosplaying as a theist. Perhaps.
Damn.
I always wonder, actually, because sometimes when we have people who call like that, and in the chat, I'll see people say, this person's a troll, like, drop them. I feel like sometimes the troll calls are the, like, entertaining ones that Amir was talking about, and, like, I kind of, sometimes I entertain the trolls because it's just kind of fun.
Yeah, that, and on top of that, I think it can be really hard to tell because I've had, like, on my social media, I've responded to certain Christian arguments where the person's like, oh, this person's just a troll or a rage baiter. And I go, like, extensively look in their profile. I'm like, guys, unfortunately, this is not rage bait. Like, they genuinely believe this. And the unfortunate part is I know a lot of people in real life who believe stuff like that. So, I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Yeah.
You know?
It's always hard to tell. Harder every day. Is this one me? I think so.
Okay. I don't know. Go ahead. I can't remember.
$20 from Mr. Boricua 10. I cannot express the amount of disgust I have for this first caller. The amount of face this guy thinks he has to come off as an enlightened sage while gleefully advocating the worst suffering imaginable is wretched. Get bent. I fucking agree. I also love Get Bent. That's really good. Yeah, I know. That's that always is the like one of the most interesting arguments to have with people of faith is if you really believe in this, why is there so much suffering? And like, how can you justify the amount of suffering that goes on that's needless? The answer to that question tells me a lot about the person.
Right. Yeah, I agree. $9.99 from Hannah Hodgins. Why would a God care if you bang before marriage? It's natural and healthy. We did it all the time before we created marriage. God is such a creep. I think about this all the time and how creepy they make God for caring about sex so much. It's weird. Like, why?
Yes.
Why would he care that much? It's bizarre.
Have you ever heard the song God is a Creep?
No.
Taylor,
but I'll have to listen to it.
You need to, you have to. I think it's by Peach PRC.
Okay.
I'm gonna send it to you. Oh no, it's God is a Freak is what it's called, and it is.
Oh, okay.
It's so funny. Do you Spotify? I'll send it to you a link to it right now.
Yes.
It's so great.
Spotify.
I'll put it in our Discord so Morgan can enjoy it as well.
I can't remember still. Oh my gosh, my brain's broken. $5 from Bastille. Props to being a valuable resource. What?
Props to being a valuable resource. I guess for yapping. And
just period.
You're welcome. I don't know. I guess. $9.99 from Hannah Hodgins. I thought Jesse meant Jesus' light is in everyone in a kind way, but it can be damaging. It strips people's individuality away and saying it's God's light instead of acknowledging humans' light. I agree. I think many times when people attribute things to God, I'm like, or all of the human beings that made this exist. Why is it not? That's so much cooler to me. Like when things like we're able to create a vaccine or something, and they're like, oh, thank God polio doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
Thank all of the science that the years and years of science and dedication and funds that went to creating a vaccine that worked and whatever. It's like you're giving all of the credit away.
Right. And if you're somebody who worked really hard for something, like a degree, job, whatever it might be, and then you give everything to God and be like, and not giving yourself credit of like what you can achieve and all that. So I agree.
Yeah.
$9.99 from Rob P. I hope Erica doesn't see Alyssa say humans aren't apes.
Well, so he was trying to say, I saw people talking about this in the chat too. He was trying to say that human apes in the way that like our decision making works. And obviously there's a difference between the decision making and like ability to have critical thought that separates us from literal apes. You know? So that's what I meant. I know. No one tell Erica.
Yeah.
No one tell Erica. Don't tell her.
I'm going to tell
break
her.
her heart. And I don't. Oh my God. $20 from Duffel Bag 420. Oh, I don't know. Is it me or is it you? Can't be sure. I'm so tired. I don't know.
I hate this.
We started
I'm sorry
show.
I keep doing that.
No, we started the show both being like, I'm exhausted. So the fact that we got to 9:30 East Coast time, I'm proud of us.
That's actually pretty impressive. Okay, I'll read it. $20 from Duffel Bag 420. I'm from the sticky tape purity culture, and all I want for Christmas is a roll of double-sided sticky tape. Preach.
Hey, I love it. I love it. $20 from Eric. $20 bucks for having to deal with a mirror. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was not that bothered by a mirror. It was like word salad for sure, but like, I don't know.
Someone said,
I didn't think it was that bad.
Someone said in the chat that cracked me up. They were like, is this Jordan Peterson? I'm like, literally exactly what I thought. Because it kind of sounds like
Truly.
him.
It was giving Jordan Peterson a little, but yeah.
Yeah, it's okay then. $10 from Joshua Everett, my weekly tithe to our deity most high, the divine Taylor creator and curator, and all of that is awesome. And her friend, the holy saint Alyssa, and the pink unicorn, great show today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for tithing.
That's it's awesome. $10 from Nixie. Indoctrination. I grew, I think, up in the USA. Our money says, in God we trust. They made us recite the pledge every day with the word God in it. Amir no doubt grew up singing God Save the Queen. It's everywhere, always. Period. Well put. I hope Amir heard that, and we'll call back with some thoughts on that.
$10 from Where is Waldo? Present actual evidence for God. I have never seen or heard any evidence that doesn't explicitly demonstrate an unfalsifiable claim isn't true. Wait, what? Why can't I read? Isn't true. Isn't evidence for the unfalsifiable claim. I can't talk anymore. Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
But that's the whole thing. It is always, I don't know, therefore God. Always. That is what people do. And I don't know, therefore God is literally faith. And if that's fine if that's what you have, but then don't call the show and tell me that you have irrefutable proof. You don't. You have faith, which is fine. That's not the same thing.
Agreed.
Crazy. $10 from Missy D. Human minds are prone to making quick and dirty connections, even when there's no actual connections. Many humans see God in the natural world, but many of us also see faces in linoleum. Exactly. Do you guys remember when there was a person who said that they saw the Virgin Mary in a piece of toast?
Yeah. Well, I saw one where they saw Jesus. Maybe it was also Mary, but they probably see faces.
Maybe.
And everything.
Oh, I think it was Jesus. I think you're right. Silly me. It was Jesus in the toast.
Yeah, Jesus toast. Yum.
Jesus toast.
$4.99 from DLW558. The only God I know of is the pink unicorn. Heard it on the line. It must be true. Great show tonight. Facts.
I still think we
Factual.
need pink unicorn merch at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely.
$5 from President Starscream. The road to nowhere leads to me, sung by Ozzy, but applies to God. Maybe Ozzy is God. Rip.
Yeah, rest in
Maybe.
peace.
Ozzy was apparently kind of awful. So far, it's checking out.
I literally barely know anything about him, if I'm being so real. Like, obviously I know who he is, but that's about it.
It's always like when somebody dies, you either find out that they were actually most of the time I feel like that's when it all comes out that they were awful, and very, very rarely you have like a Robin Williams situation where people are like, fuck, we didn't appreciate him enough. But so many, and it's also like when you think about someone like Ozzy Osbourne, like he was touring with Black Sabbath his entire young adult life. Like, ain't no fucking way that guy was making good decisions.
Right,
you know?
right. Yeah, and that's what I heard about Hulk Hogan, like how he just passed away. Literally don't know anything about that dude, but then just figured out a bunch of awful things about him, and I was like, nice.
Yup. With that handlebar mustache and hot dog skin, what are we talking about here?
Hot dog skin.
Gross.
Oh, wait, did we read this
I think
already?
this is you. No.
$13.99 from Crystal W. I think I'm at the point where I'm ready to say that philosophical explanations for God are not proof. Yeah, same.
Agreed. $5 from Aaliyah Shauna Silverbow. It's so kind of Amir to deign to allow other callers to call in to one of my dogs is like really wanting to hang out. Deign to allow other callers to call in the show. What would we do if Amir didn't allow it? So gracious. Sarcasm. That's really funny. Yeah.
$5 from Jessica Doodoo, McButtface, love it. Apologies from the UK for having such a smug, condescending, like Amir talk down to you. Hashtag love you soon. Hashtag Espeon sucks. Hashtag Zaruba for the atheist cult leader. The slander continues. Disappointed, but not Jessica. Surprised.
Yeah. $5 from Joshua Everett. One more to celebrate chat getting our usernames back. Woohoo! Yay! Did we not have usernames? Did something happen to them?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, YouTube changed chat so that it was showing handles rather than usernames, and for whatever reason, it switched back for this show.
Wow. Okay.
Interesting. $4.99 from Hannah Hodgins. Amir is one of those ads that show up everywhere and never goes away, and just new ads pop up the more you click. That's one way to describe it.
He's been around the line block, apparently. He's been calling in a bunch of shows, so and yet we have not had irrefutable proof. So we will just continue to wait, I guess. $10 Canadian from Ayla Ursus. I second the motion for pink unicorn merch. I'd definitely buy a shirt. I forever ago made a pink unicorn thing, but I did it with AI, so like I would like to have someone actually do it. But it was like right at the worst time. I think we were doing our Recovering from Religion fundraiser. It was like right around the holiday. Like it was too much. But I want to revisit the pink unicorn merch because I think it would be really fun.
That would be really cool, especially to find a artist to like commission that.
I made it in a like let me see if I can find it. I made it in like a religious like this. This was what I made.
My thing is blocking it. Oh, here I see. I love that though. That's so funny.
Isn't that so fun? I thought that would be great.
It is.
Anyway.
I do like that.
Yeah. I don't know if this is me or you.
$10 from Stephen G. Clinard. Why am I forgetting his name already?
Amir?
Amir, why can't I do this? Amir is the Cars for Kids of the line. I don't know what Cars for Kids is.
Cars for
What is
Kids was
Cars
like
for
a
Kids?
Cars for Kids is a company that will take car donations, and then I think they donate them the like money from them somehow, or they donate the car to kids. I don't know. It's a charity.
Oh.
But there's like a song for it that's like 1877 Cars for Kids, KARS Cars for Kids, and it was like on radio all the time, like regular whatever radio.
Oh. Gotcha.
So I guess because people feel annoyed by Amir, he is the Cars for Kids of the line, apparently. I don't know.
Fair enough.
Thank you so much, everyone, for calling and for being in chat, standing by us in chat all the time. Thank you so much to Amargan and our screeners and our moderators. And, sorry for singing the Cars for Kids song. I'm so sorry. Everyone's very upset that now it's stuck in their head. I deeply apologize. I didn't think of it. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your night. Amargan, ride us off into the sunset. Wow. Okay, I like that. I'm going to start doing that. Thank you, everyone. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/calltheline. I love that little squishy s'more. I need to have a
He's
squishy
always
something.
upside down. Yeah, get a
Really
squishy.